How's it going, everybody? MyCupOfTea here, back in Braxton, and we're here to continue the Pokemon Marathon Extravaganza Halapalooza, haha. Now I need to take a cool down. I need to chill my mind, because after the last one we watched was like a Pokemon special music video. That was too fire. I didn't even know what to say at the end. I need to chill my mind. I just want to watch some informative stuff. So today we're gonna be watching Pokemon English dub versus Japanese by Lumiose Trainer Zach. Hopefully I said that right. And this is requested by Chi-Vo. So bam, shouts out to you. Shouts out to you. Now I wasn't sure if this is like the one you want me to check out, this video. But for some reason it didn't show me your name or like what you typed in the comments. So I'll hopefully this is the right one. If not, we can check out the other one. But yeah, let's see what the difference between dub and Japanese is. Because in some anime, especially PBS, they be changing some stuff. Or for kids, they changed a lot of stuff from dub to Japanese or Japanese to dub. Let's watch.
So when it comes to the Pokemon anime, there's only really two ways you can watch it: dubbed or in Japanese.
Yeah.
Most of us English speakers here in the West grew up watching Pokemon in the English dub.
I did.
Makes sense since it's the most accessible version to us and it's in our own native language.
Right.
Because of that, however, there are many dub fans who are just unaware of the original Japanese version and don't even know that there are major differences between the two.
I have no idea.
Hardcore Japanese watchers believe everything in the dub is trash and it's not worth watching. Is this true?
Wait,
why do people feel this way? And what makes these versions...
Wait, hold on, I didn't hear that at all. I was thinking about something else.
On the other side of the coin though, hardcore Japanese watchers believe everything in the dub is trash and it's not worth watching.
Oh.
Is this true? Why do people feel this way? And what makes these versions so different from one another? That's what we're going to break down for you today. I'm going to need some help covering this huge topic, so joining me is Austin from Resort Originals.
Thank you so much for having me in this episode, Zach. As an OG stan of the original voice cast, I'm more than happy to give some insight.
OG stan,
alright, and now that the introductions are out of the way, let's get started.
When they say dub, are they talking English dub or are they talking Japanese dub? I didn't mean English dub. Well, let's see, here we go. Let's see what we're talking about here.
Now, when it comes to comparing the English and Japanese version of the Pokemon anime, we need to start by looking at the dub, as that's where all the major differences really stem from. Because the dub has gone through many changes throughout the years, to make things a lot easier, we broke it down into its three major eras we decided to call the 4Kids era, the Transition era, and the Goldfarb era. We'll be starting off with the 4Kids era, which covers,
4Kids.
You guessed it, the first 8 seasons when 4Kids had the dubbing rights.
The Pokemon anime debuted to the American audience in September of 1998.
Jeez, I didn't know it was that old.
Began the run of the Ash Ketchum everyone from the 90s know, and that is the one and only Veronica Taylor. Veronica Taylor's experience voicing Ash is very similar to the other dub voice actors. The voice actor listens to the Japanese voice and then tries to emit the personality and expression of that character into their own.
For Pokemon specifically, we were able to see a clip from the show, and they wanted the voices to somewhat mirror what the original Japanese actors had done. And so we all auditioned based on that, and then there were many, many callbacks, and it just kind of went on, and then I got the job and didn't know if I had the job, and then I had the job, and then luckily I had that.
Hey, good stuff. Hey,
the first season tends to be a feeler period to figure out how you want to portray that character. So you tend to see the most drastic change of that voice from episode 1 of the first season to the very end of that season, where that voice actor finally gets to a groove to how they want to portray that character. The maturity of Ash's voice was actually a slow growth as time went on. If you pay attention to the beginning of the series to the end when Veronica Taylor was still voicing Ash, you can tell the maturity grew with Ash Ketchum that was a compliment to what Veronica Taylor was able to do with his voice as he aged as a trainer.
Nice.
Or aged as a trainer.
Yeah, aged, still 10 forever.
I've pledged to get all the Pokemon in the world. Now I'm ready to take the next step to be the #1 Pokemon Master.
Wow, your power seems excellent. You're a lot stronger, no doubt about that. Now, next up, let me see some high-altitude flying.
Okay.
A voice actor has to find a way to appreciate the original voice, but turn it into theirs to utilize what they're good at as a voice actor. That's how you see similarities between the dub version of Ash and the Japanese version. You can also compare that to the Veronica Taylor version of Ash to the Sarah Natochenny version. There are similarities, but there are also distinct differences to make that character their own. This also can be translated to not only just the voice portrayal, but also how the lines are said compared to the original. And that's where Zach has a little bit more to dive into this subject.
Yeah, let me see how the lines
let's
work.
Talk about script changes.
Yeah,
Back in the 90s and early 2000s, having an English dub of an anime make changes to the original Japanese script was nothing new. The biggest example that comes to mind is how Goku was changed to be more Superman-like in Dragon Ball Z for American audiences. Well, Pokemon was no stranger to things like that, especially in the 4Kids era. Austin already touched on this a bit when it comes to Ash. Although he was always kinda sassy in the original series, 4Kids a lot of the time went out of their way to make him a lot more savage.
Oh, he was so, I seen TikToks. He was really sassy.
One of the three most disgusting things in the world!
Aside from you, what are the other disgusting things?
The comedic
Sassy
differences
Ash.
aren't just limited to Ash though, as this is extended to the entire cast. Aside from the boy Ash, I think some of the funniest English dub lines come from Brock and Team Rocket. Now that's not to say that the original Japanese version doesn't have great moments as well, but the 4Kids era is probably the best when it comes to elevating comedic moments or just adding hilarious one-liners when there weren't any.
Okay, 4Kids.
What are you talking about, Brock? I don't see any beautiful girl.
Just turn around.
Misty, please, only one of us can hallucinate at a time.
Aside from the occasional funny ha-ha, the English dub changes would sometimes be a lot more drastic, to the point where scenes end up feeling completely different compared to the original Japanese. Remember how it was said that Brock's mom died, but then she actually was alive and well in AG? Well, this was a dub change. She never actually died in the original Japanese. Well, how about when Ash promised to get back Pidgeot after the Orange Islands? Well, that was also a dub change. He never says this in the Japanese version. I think the biggest example can be found in the very first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back. While the message and themes in the original version revolved around Mewtwo's existentialism, the dub changed it into an anti-violence message where fighting is wrong, even though Pokemon fight all the time.
I didn't know that.
Well, at least it gave us two banger quotes from Mewtwo and Meowth. Now, if we're still talking about
I didn't know that. Okay, that makes sense.
We absolutely have to bring up Poke shipping, aka the romantic pairing of Ash and...
Yeah, because I know 4Kids, they like to like censor like anything like really messed up stuff. They censor that out, or violence. If there's blood, they give it a blood. They give it a blood. No blood allowed. No cigarettes. One Piece, Sanji, Lollipop. 4Kids, yeah, they censor stuff out a lot because it's aimed at kids. So, and I'm pretty sure in like the original Japanese dubbing Pokemon, they probably said had some serious topics mentioned. But as you said in the movie, they said nah, violence is wrong in the English dub. All right, let's go back.
Well, at least it gave us two banger quotes from Mewtwo and Meowth. Now, if we're still talking about script changes, then we absolutely have to bring up Poke shipping, aka the romantic pairing of Ash and Misty. In the Japanese version, the hints were definitely there, but a lot of the time, 4Kids went out of their way to make it a lot more obvious. They'd push Poke shipping so much back then that sometimes they'd even add suggestive shipping dialogue when there weren't any to begin with.
You and I will be married someday too.
I feel like one of the most WTF changes happened in movie 6. When Max is sad because he has to say goodbye to Jirachi, in the Japanese version, Ash talks about how 1,000 years will only be an instant for Jirachi. That's nice. But 4Kids over here completely changed the script and gave us...
A good friend left me and I miss her every day. But I know we'll always be friends forever.
This is obviously alluding to Misty.
What? No!
Scene, but there really wasn't a reason to add that other than to give us more Poke shipping moments when there weren't any.
You ruined a good moment.
4Kids were Poke shippers. Makes you wonder how they would have handled Serena if they still had the dubbing rights.
While Pokemon was still trying to get into the groove of what was approved in Japan, but not in the West, there were some growing pains involving censorship for the translation to the Western audience.
I mentioned that earlier.
There have been a total of 5 instances where the dub had to censor the original version. The first time actually being where it felt like the writer was already under the influence, where it actually did happen. The writer was under the influence a lot.
Oh gosh.
So I guess it's not as surprising to hear that James was given a nice large set of...
I've seen that clip before, or that image before.
Release in the year 2000, however, it was brutally butchered to take out any kind of scene that had something that was a little bit controversial for probably a 5 to 10-year-old audience.
Small
maybe
audience,
12,
very
15,
small.
20, 26, 27. The next
25.
episode that was actually
oh my gosh, the gun
was the use of a firearm in an episode.
The blicky.
Taken out completely. It was unfortunate because there were some big continuity issues that came with this episode because that's where Ash ended up getting all of his Tauros. So we just ended up getting an episode where he threw out Tauros and we're just wondering where did that come from? And why does he have 30 of them? The next band from the original series was the racially depicted Jinx, which was later turned from blackface to purple. She wasn't changed until Generation 3, but I did hope Pokemon would have just digitally altered the color to make the episodes available instead of completely scrapping them.
Yeah, you can just change the color.
next instance comes
I remember this one. Seizure. My gosh.
Seizures for hundreds of Japanese children.
Yep.
This incident was
so close to the
severe that the episode was banned worldwide, which is why it never got a dub release.
That makes sense.
The
I don't know why they would do
ban
that.
From the original series ended up being a situation that was just bad timing, and that was Tentacruel smashing down buildings.
I heard about that
too. The episode was planned to debut right around 9/11 in 2001, and we all know what happened then, so it was bad timing, and they ended up pulling the episode off the air and ended up pushing it to a later date where it wasn't so sensitive of material to use.
That episode
did have a continuity issue again because that was where Misty caught a Horsey and we never knew it. The next time we saw Horsey, we just like, oh, I guess Misty owns that.
Off screen, I guess.
That's about it for censorship from the 4Kids era. I can't really think of anything else.
Not that bad of a censorship from 4Kids era.
There wouldn't be any audio or like music. That wouldn't make sense. There won't be issues about that, right? Right?
Well, actually, Austin, the last topic we need to touch on regarding the 4Kids era is the music.
This is
a recurring topic for all the eras of the anime we touch on, so get used to it. Now, unlike other mainstream anime, Pokemon unfortunately doesn't keep all the original Japanese soundtrack, or OST. If you just watch the dub, then you won't even notice this change, but if you've been watching both the English dub and Japanese, then the differences in the background music become more and more apparent. The reason the English dub doesn't use a lot of the Japanese OST all comes down to money.
Yeah.
When they purchase the licensing of a show, right, and they reformat it, when they license it to different countries, the voices are being replaced, right? But if the music is not being replaced, then you're making residuals on that end of it. So what 4Kids decided was, hey, we'll redo the music so that when it's airing in Canada or it's airing in, you know, France or Germany or whatever, and they're replacing the actors, us, with their local actors, they're still making the money on the licensing of the music. So it's all about that, which makes a lot of sense.
So to put it simply, if the dub is to use the original music, then they'd have to pay the Japanese company that produces said music. This is a practice that is still done to this day, at least for Pokemon. It's a shame because there's a lot of amazing Japanese OSTs that will never be enjoyed.
I've never heard a single, well, not really, but...
Now it's not all doom and gloom, because 4Kids did a pretty good job at keeping some iconic tracks for the first couple of seasons. On top of that, their own dub music wasn't that bad if I'm being honest. This might just be my nostalgia talking, as I did grow up with the 4Kids
I can't remember any OST music.
A lot of the original music they created is actually really good. When you hear these tracks, you can't help but think of Pokemon, specifically Ash's early days in Kanto. And it fits so well.
Is it the music from Kanto?
The music for the first 3 Pokemon movies, and if
he really tried to punch Mewtwo. That's hilarious.
Also pretty good. So good, in fact, that 4Kids even started using their movie tracks in later episodes, which was cool. The downside to this, though, is that since they had so much of their own music to work with now, they slowly stopped relying on the Japanese OST by the time we got to Hoenn. Which is why instead of getting scenes like this,
okay, nice. Media hook.
We got scenes like this.
And media match. Wow, just like that.
It's not that bad. Not that bad.
This is the way a battle is meant to be, Morrison.
Are you kidding me, man? They took out the Suicune theme. The 4Kids
I mean, it wasn't that bad to me
when it comes to their music. As in half the time,
if I watch it more.
Japanese OST, and the other half of the time, it's their own music.
The Japanese one was definitely better, but it wasn't that bad.
Worked, so it was pretty balanced. And with that, we wrap up the 4Kids era.
Okay, 4Kids era didn't do so bad.
Extremely controversial transition era.
Oh, okay.
Named after the transition dub made after 4Kids lost the rights to Pokemon. This
what
era
happened
covers
here?
Season 9 of Battle Frontier all the way until Season 16 Adventures in Unova.
That's basically
Now, as much hate as this era gets, this one is actually my favorite. But before we get to why, Austin, how about you explain why this era is so controversial?
Yeah, why is it so controversial?
Even though it's pretty obvious.
Anyone watching Pokemon during the year of 2006
wasn't me.
Woke up on a very, very special weekend and encountered what will live for a day in infamous Pokemon history, and that is Mystery of the Mirage Pokemon.
What?
I am so sorry for anyone else that had to be there for that. This was actually a transition of ownership from 4Kids to TPCI, and that was with a brand new voice cast. They decided to get rid of all of the originals and bring in a cheaper, sound-alike cast.
Ooh,
this was absolutely
that sounds bad. That sounds really bad.
Fans and TPCI noticed, because I mean, hey, this is the year 2021, and I'm still talking about this infamous day.
That sounds really bad. Why would you get rid of
Saturday morning?
People got used to the characters.
Was that TAJ Productions undercut 4Kids for that contract? Hence why they didn't bring back the original voice actors. Since the original voice cast was so beloved, there was a lot of animosity towards the new cast that
I can see why,
the characters that we grew up with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is something
I'll
that
be angry too.
TPCI did learn from, and they have committed to that cast ever since. So we've had the new cast longer than the original cast, which is something that you can at least appreciate that
they
give them
took that.
What those issues were then, and they decided to commit to what this new cast is and keep them for the long term, and it has been almost 15 years since that change has happened. But I think it's important to also talk about what the changes were from one voice to the other. And that's specifically with Veronica Taylor to Sarah Natochenny. Now, some might not know this, but Sarah was actually the third voice actor to voice Ash. The voice of Ash in Mystery of the Mirage Pokemon was actually voiced by Casey Rogers. It was an older voice actor, and the voice was just too raspy and just sounded just flat out awful. With the strong backlash to the new voice of Ash in Mystery of the Mirage Pokemon, she was immediately replaced by Sarah Natochenny.
What in the world brought you here? My amazing training skills, that's what. You see, Dr. Young sent me a letter inviting me to come. My amazing training skills, that's what.
Okay, yeah, that sounds infinitely better. I'm sorry, but that sounds infinitely better.
Pikachu! Full tackle! Full power! Pikachu! Full tackle!
Wow, that's like night and day. That's crazy.
Now, although Sarah was an improvement to Casey Rogers, the transition was still a bit rough. Sarah tried to completely replicate what Veronica Taylor did as Ash, but you could tell that the transition just didn't work.
Don't do that.
It was really hard to fill Veronica Taylor's shoes.
I can imagine,
They wanted me to sound like her, but as the show progressed, I kept getting kind of redirected, and I don't blame anybody for that. That's fine. But it definitely made me even more nervous. And then I saw the fans, like all the negative comments.
I'm sorry you had to go through
like,
death threats. She's just doing her job.
Horrible. But for me personally, I mean, I wasn't particularly nervous. I was just, I just knew I had really big shoes to fill because this was such a huge show.
That's crazy. You just sent death threats to the voice actor. She didn't do nothing wrong. She didn't buy out 4Kids and like fired everybody. She's just doing the job. She's doing her best. That's crazy. Obviously, my people here, y'all weren't, sending death threats to her during that time. I mean, sure, you guys were probably angry if you were watching it around that time. I'll be angry too if I was watching and they replaced all my people. But I would never send death threats to a voice actor. You can be angry at a voice actor if he's just like doing a horrible job, like just completely butchering lines or whatnot. You can be like mad at the voice actor for not acting right, I guess you can say. But don't ever send death threats. That's wild. That's bananas. But yeah, let's keep it going. That's crazy though. I didn't know that.
Comfortability with
really big shoes to fill.
You did your thing though. You did your thing though.
With the comfortability
15 plus
with
years,
Sarah voicing Ash, you did start to see a transition that better suited her voice than what she was trying to do with Veronica's. She had to make Ash her own, but also preserve what made Ash Ketchum Ash Ketchum. Sarah's solution to this was getting rid of the raspiness altogether and going to more of a high pitch that suited her voice level, but also embodied the personality of more of an immature Ash Ketchum, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just took us back a little bit to maybe more of an actual representation of a 10-year-old versus what maybe Ash was by the end of his era with Veronica that could be maybe 14, 15. It was almost as if Sarah reset the tone of Ash's voice to progressively mature all the way up into the peak of X and Y.
It's kind of like, sorry for pausing, it's kind of like in Dragon Ball Z, right? Gohan, Teen Gohan, or I guess Kid Gohan. I can't remember which company was doing it for dubbing, but back then he had a raspy voice. He sounded like an adult, even though he was supposed to be a kid. But I think, was it Funimation, I think, might have been? No, somebody else. There was a different actor it sounded like a kid altogether. Gohan's voice sounded like a kid in this other dubbing, which it took me off guard, why does Gohan sound like this? It's supposed to be like a grown adult almost. It was kind of weird, but I got used to it. So it's kind of like that. I feel like, I think it started off raspy, and then another voice actor came in, said, I can't do that raspy voice. Let me do my level, my, high pitch as a kid should be. And that's what Gohan was. Teen Gohan was. Kid Gohan was. But okay, gotcha. Started back.
Right, you haven't met yet. I won want you to meet Starly, who's my very first Pokemon buddy from Sinnoh and who helped me find you.
Voice acting
We're all
great.
the best. And as long as we're all together, we can't lose. Everything's leading me to become a Pokemon master. There's no doubt.
No, she's good.
Nothing
He's
will
good.
be able to beat or compete with what that original group did create
Oh,
with
yeah.
the Pokemon franchise.
I can see
However,
it.
I can really appreciate what Sarah and the rest of the new cast has done to really portray those voices in the best way possible and really carry the torch of maybe what not be maybe as perfect as the original cast, but bring a strong representation to who they are and what they can continue to be
Is their favorite
for the
Pokemon?
many years to come. All I really look for at this point is to see if they're showing the love and care within those characters going forward. And that's really the best a voice actor can do.
Now, besides the obvious, Ash
that one
sounding
can be
different
way
because of
worse.
the voice acting changes, in this era of the anime, Ash was a lot different in the way that he spoke.
Oh.
Many people have pointed this out. While Ash had his own personality with his spunk and sassiness during the 4Kids era, in the transition era, Ash talked a lot more like your average shonen protagonist. His personality was a lot more cookie cutter here, and it's something that is stuck with the English version of Ash till his personality shift in Sun and Moon. But something that is worth mentioning though is that, like the transition era of the dub, Ash himself was going through a bit of a transition in the anime. Ash's whole arc in Hoenn was overcoming his cockiness, as seen with his losses against Brawly and Drake. So by the time the Hoenn League is over and the Battle Frontier begins, Ash is a lot more toned down, which is why he seems like he's lost a lot of his original personality. And this just so happens to be when the voice acting changes happen. This also leads into the next big point we want to touch on. Unlike 4Kids that made tons of script changes to the dub, Pokemon USA script was a lot closer to the original Japanese. For the most part, Ash and almost every character in the anime, minus Team Rocket a bit, were speaking the way that they did in the Japanese version. So this is why some of the characters might feel a bit different compared to the 4Kids counterpart.
That makes sense.
The only exception is Team Rocket, like I said, where instead of making a bunch of puns, they've now switched to alliterated jingles, which I don't mind, to be honest. I thought it was a fun change that fit with their characters. On top of having a more faithful script, the transition era is also where the dub kept the most Japanese music. They still had their own dub music thrown in there, but they definitely kept a lot of amazing tracks that were never heard in the 4Kids version of the anime, which was great. Something cool to note is the fact that they actually used some of the classic 4Kids tracks during seasons 9 and 10, which is a nice way to keep both eras connected in a way. Starting season 11, Battle Dimension, is when things began to change, however, because that's when Touch Production had left and Duer Art Film and Video joined the scene to help Pokemon USA. During this era, the 4Kids themes were completely gone, with more and more Japanese OSTs in its place. On top of that, because of this little change behind the scenes, the dub was a lot less cheap, and this time it brought back a lot of the old 4Kids voice actors like the original voice of Giovanni, Gary, and Wobbuffet, to name a few. We even got the voice of Missy returned to voice Maylene, and Son Goku himself, Sean Schimmel, returned to play Cyrus and many other roles throughout Diamond and Pearl.
Shoot,
it
you
was
had
awesome.
him play Cyrus?
We got a great mix of some old voices as well as the new ones getting better and better with each season. On top of that, we had the most Japanese OST the dub had ever kept, which is why I believe, as controversial as it was, this was the best era of the English dub.
I can see why Zach likes this one.
Closest to the original Japanese.
That makes sense.
Seriously, by the time we reached Sinnoh League Victors and early Black and White, the dub was almost identical.
Is that when you fought
to the
Tobias?
Japanese. In fact, the first 8 episodes of Black and White kept 100% of the Japanese OST and added zero dub music over silent moments. That's the kind of dub we deserve. Unfortunately, by the time we got to Rival Destinies, they slowly started to use less Japanese OSTs and more of their own. And now that brings us to the final and current era.
So I can see why people would hate or love Transition Era.
Named after current English dub composer Ed Goldfarb. He joined the scene starting with season 17, XY, and that's what sparked the next shift in the dub. This is often regarded as the English dub at its worst, because it's the one that uses the least amount of Japanese soundtracks. Like, you can probably count on one hand how many Japanese OSTs they kept in a single episode nowadays, and it's kinda sad. This is also the era where the Pokemon movies started to go back to exclusive dub music done by, you guessed it. Now, nothing against Ed Goldfarb himself, as I'm sure he got the job because of his musical experience, but when it comes to Pokemon at least, his stuff just doesn't do it for me. Part of what makes scenes in the anime work are the accompanying tracks that help elevate moments of emotion, action, and intensity. But when you replace that with something that's so bland and basic, then most of the excitement that's in the original Japanese version is lost. What makes this even more apparent is that it all began during XY, the series that is the most action-oriented and has the most epic moments. When
XY definitely has some epic moments right here, or is it Black and White?
You're left with something that is far less memorable in my opinion.
Okay. Elaine, the homie. That was a good battle right there. Ooh. Okay, now I'm starting to feel it now. This ain't hitting. Nah, that's not hitting as much.
Now, to give credit where credit is due, the Goldfarb era has
I don't know
produced
about
a
that
few
one.
good tracks, like the epic Kalos region theme used in XY, and the battle theme used during Ash vs. Guzma, for example.
I'll take your word for it.
But
Oh my
still,
gosh,
those
you
are
guys
just
said
a few
flying.
standouts. Not a lot.
Just when you thought that the censorship was long gone after getting to a good rhythm of what can and cannot be shown to the Western audiences, the censorship made an unexpected return in the ever-changing art style era.
Wait, time out. We gotta figure out what they're censoring here.
Cannot be shown to the Western audiences. The censorship.
You really can't show that? I mean, I guess. I would figure got like the ghost coming out of him because you know, like he's symboling like he's dead or dying. You can't show that? That's crazy. Okay.
Censorship made an unexpected return.
They just cut him like screaming out in pain. Okay.
In the.
I'm not sure what they're censoring. They're censoring him getting stepped on? You really can't show that? Ash been getting done about his entire life and like hit all these other stuff. You can't show. Okay, you know.
Ever-changing art style era. The first being cuts left and right to prevent religious implications because they decided to put a crucifix, and apparently you can't do crucifixes. Well, whatever. It goes over the kids' heads anyways. The censorship issues continued when they decided to make intense scenes less intense by making different cries to be a little bit less painful.
What?
Because I guess the more it hurts, the more emotion you get out of an audience.
Oh no. That's bad
censorship like that is what really frustrates me because you're taking away how evil a character can be.
You need to have that.
You want to beat them even more. So when that finally does happen, you have a higher gratitude and satisfaction when that bad person is defeated, and when you kind of butcher how mean and evil they are, just it takes it away, and it's frustrating.
I feel that 100%,
even for a younger audience. The next censor edits bring us all the way into the Sun and Moon era of Alola, and that is actually involving Mimikyu and Meowth, where Meowth actually sees a clothless Mimikyu, and it technically kills him, but it's an anime, so nothing really like dies, or at least we don't get to see a death on screen.
Okay.
You jokingly see his spirit float away, but I guess you can't really do that because then maybe it implies he's dead, even though he's really not dead. But let's just roll with this.
I guess
instead of having his spirit float away from his body, they just took that all out together, even though he's not really dead. In episode 64 of the Sun and Moon series, it featured an entire ban to the Western audience due to the perceived depiction of blackface. Ash disguised himself as Passimian in the episode, and TPCI did not want to face any potential backlash for the episode. This was pretty unfortunate for me, as I have been waiting for Passimian's anime reveal, as it was one of my favorite Pokemon in the Alola region.
I would have been fine with that. It's not
118 in the Sun and Moon series, and that is encountering a very first of censorship, and that is editing the sound. Yeah. And I'm not talking about music. Or the dub censorship decided that Shuriken couldn't be too sharp, so they had to make a less sharp sounding noise that apparently would have huge implications on a child watching something.
What? I need to hear this.
Finish this one. Oh, and then one other thing. They also
I need to hear that.
Shuriken pink.
What?
Yeah.
A pink Shuriken? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then. God, that was horrible. Did they put cushions on the? Hold on. Oh my gosh, that made me angry for a second. That made me legit angry. They put like little suction cups on the show. That is stupid. I'm angry. Oh my god, they censored shurikens and that horrible sound. Oh my god, that's horrible. I'm sorry you guys have to deal with that English stuff. That is horrible. I mean, some censorship I don't mind as much. I'm like, you shouldn't have that in there at all. But it doesn't really like, you know, take away from me. Maybe like if they took away the people screaming and whatnot, that would like bother me. But this right here bothers me a lot because it's just a shuriken. You can throw. Okay, let's keep it going.
And finally,
they took the time to animate that part too, like
in the Pokemon Journeys anime, where we encounter someone that has a mustache that's just a little bit too narrow. Like, how bad can a mustache? Oh, okay. I see it now. Yeah, good choice, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Now,
that was good. That was good. Never mind.
One thing I will give this era credit for is its awesome voice acting. This is probably the best voice acting we've ever gotten for the dub. Sarah
Really?
Nadochenny is
Oh,
the
that
best
makes
she's
sense,
ever
'cause they
been.
got the same
as her voice
cast.
for Ash fits perfectly with Ash's personality in Sun and Moon and in Journeys. On
Voice
top of
acting
that,
is
every English
crazy.
voice is
I
on
could never
point
do it.
and sounds the way they should, in my opinion. The voice actors for characters like Clement, Serena,
Clement,
Alon,
the homie,
Kiale,
Kiale.
Anna, Mallow,
I haven't seen these people.
Kukui,
Kukui, that's his name.
Cerise, and
I knew it
even
started
Go,
with a
for
K.
example, all knock it out
I
of
knew
the
it started
park.
with a K.
Lily being the only exception, she kinda sucked.
Dang.
Besides the main cast, the English voices for supporting characters are also really good as well, especially in Pokemon Journeys. The dub is now produced by the Pokemon Company International and Inuno SDI Group. Before this, the dubbing for Pokemon was done in New York, as that's where the main headquarters is at, meaning they were limited to working with voice actors who were near the area pretty much. But because Iuno's offices are in Burbank, California, the dub has now expanded their voice acting talent to lots of other great actors across the country.
Hey, nice,
As a result,
nice.
voice actors like Sean Schimmel, who left Pokemon because he moved away from New York, have returned in Pokemon Journeys. We even got the original voice of Lance, Wayne Grayson, returning to reprise his role, which was pretty sick.
I didn't know that.
One thing I actually never expected the Pokemon Company International to do was go back on their decision of not bringing any 4Kids voice actors back under TPCI. But luckily, they finally have come around to it. Well, as the saying goes, time heals all wounds.
Okay,
and that
nice,
seems to be the case with TPCI and some of the 4Kids cast. From the return of the original Giovanni, Nurse Joy, the Champion Lance, and a few other reoccurring roles, we have seen much of the 4Kids cast return.
Nice.
However, I'm still waiting for an Eric Stewart and Veronica Taylor return, as we actually did get Rachel Lillis, not as Misty, but a different character to bring back to the fold, as we can get a nice representation of all the characters former and all the characters current into one niche Pokemon anime community, and I can't wait for that day to fully be here.
So that wraps up our breakdown of the differences between the English and Japanese version of the Pokemon anime.
Wasn't too crazy.
Dub watchers out there, I hope this video was able to help you get a better understanding of the Japanese version and why many people prefer it over the dub.
I can
and
see
as
why.
for you hardcore sub watchers, I hope you're able to get some newfound appreciation for some of the great things that the dub has to offer. Minus English dub Lily.
It's so warm.
But regardless of whether you watch it dub or sub or even both, at the end of the day, it's still Pokemon. We all love it, which is why we all watch it. So at least we have that in common. Huh. This ending was a lot more wholesome than I thought it
was.
Well, thanks for joining me, Austin.
No problem, Zach.
I didn't expect that. I thought it was gonna be like a rant.
To be a part of this video, as I love talking about the history of the Pokemon anime and, more importantly, the original dub voice cast. But shout out to the current cast; you guys are doing a great job. Now we have the new hot take discussion of our debate series returning, and that is which league was tougher to defeat: Orange Island League or the Alola League? See you guys there.
That's a debate you do not want to miss. But for now,
Maybe
thank you all for watching this video. And
I don't know anything about those leagues. Oh, it's right here.
I also want to shout out Tom Sauce and TSS for helping me with some of the information regarding the Japanese side of the anime. Without them, we probably would have left out a few important details. Links to them will be in the description. Last but not least, remember to live your life to the fullest and have yourself a damn good one.
I will. Thank you for that, Zach and Austin. Resort Originals, thank you for that. That was nice. That was nice. I like that. That was very informative, very enjoyable. I appreciate that. Well, hey, you guys didn't have it, too bad. Again, that, what was it? The transitional phase? Zach said was that the worst one for you guys? I feel like most people enjoyed the 4Kids era. I'm pretty sure, First time hearing Ash in English dub. Sassy Ash. But the transitional era, like Zach said, that's when they, got rid of all of the original voice actors for new ones, and I can see why some Pokemon fans would be heated, like, hey, these ain't the people we grew up with, we don't want them here. But it seems like they got more Japanese OSTs, less censorship. I'm pretty sure, he said that the script was basically the same as the Japanese version, which is good and bad because you grew up listening to like the old script kind of in the 4Kids era, but now that they're closely related with the Japanese ones, it's like I gotta wrap my head around this, gotta change how I think about certain characters because they're all different now. But I don't think that one was too bad. And then what was it, the Gold Farb era? The last era. I can see why people would hate that one, or have that one be like the most unenjoyable one. But like he said, it had better voice acting because they had the same characters the same voice actors from the transition era still voice acting. And they even brought some old people, like he said, Goku back in, the guy who plays Goku in English. Nice, great video. That's a nice suggestion. I only remember English dub OSTs. Even when we watch these Pokemon AMVs, I don't watch the actual Pokemon battle. I just watch the AMVs, so I don't really hear the Japanese OSTs, just like some random music playing. But I didn't know they were fired, so that's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. Great video. Great video. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Let me know what you guys prefer down below in the comments. English or the Japanese version, because I don't have a say, because I stopped watching like around season 4 or 5 it feels like. But as you know, I'm watching Pokemon battles and some informative videos. But yeah, let me know how you guys feel down below. And this was a great suggestion. Thank you for watching. My cup of tea is out of here. Adios. Man, alright. Good on you, Pokemon. Kudos to you, Pokemon. You didn't have a terrible voice acting like some other animes out there do. You guys are great. You guys are great.